That's Tony Hancock in. Hancock's half hour.
I've been thinking, Sid, you're the jealous sort, aren't you? You know, a victim of the green-eyed monster. You get the odd pang or two, don't you, on a regular basis?
No, I don't. Jealous of you, you mean? Why would I be jealous of you?
No, don't get me wrong, Sid. Not just jealous of me, although I could think of quite a few good reasons why. No, in general, are you the jealous type? You know, personality J and all that.
Name me one good reason why I'm jealous of you. Go on, have a go.
It's too easy, Sid. I wouldn't even try. I don't want to upset you. We're buddies. Not equals, of course, but reasonably close friends.
Rubbish. I'm better at everything than you.
Yes, that's right, Sid. You've got it. Jealousy. All right, you asked for it. A few home truths are in order. I'm better looking than you for a start, aren't I?
No, you're not. Better looking than me. How many girlfriends have you got at the moment?
How many girlfriends at the moment? Don't be so vulgar. You can't measure love and attractiveness in terms of how many partners you've got. Oh, I'm a gentleman. We treat ladies in the way the gentler sex should be treated, with civility and courteousness. One at a time is my motto.
Have it your way. Let's tot 'em up. There's your girlfriend, Alice.
Ah, yes, the lovely Alice, my childhood sweetheart. I will soon pledge my troth.
And there's your other girlfriend, Stella.
All right, so there's two of them. You never know when you might need a spare, do you? At least I'm not like you, Sid, wandering around with a pair of drunken floozies on each arm.
Floozies? They're decent girls, Hancock. There's a lot of them, I admit, but I'm irresistible to the opposite sex, aren't I?
So how many have you got? Come on, tell me, how many? The Daily Star are investigating.
If you must know, I have 7 girlfriends at the last count. That's why I'm not jealous of you, because I've got more girlfriends, Hancock.
You're a brazen Lothario, Sid James, and that's why I'm a better man than you. I am a more moral person and do not inhabit the gutter, because I've just fallen into it with a couple of drunken tarts.
I can't help it if the ladies like me. I don't want to upset them. That's why I go out with them.
To satisfy your animal lusts, more like.
I'm not an animal. Take that back.
You can't stop me telling the truth, Sir James. You're afraid of the truth. I'm not jealous. Stop saying that.
You call me an animal?
No, Sid, we mustn't behave like this. We have to set an example as ex-policemen. By coincidence, our next customer may be the victim of an hate crime brought on by jealousy, like me.
You're still saying I'm jealous, aren't you?
You can't stop me telling the truth, Sir James. You're afraid of the truth. I'm not jealous. Stop saying that.
You call me an animal?
Good morning. I've come about me gooseberries.
Doctor's surgery's around the corner, mate. Bottom of the road, turn left and you can't miss it. People limping in and out on crutches, you know, that sort of thing.
No, stop messing about. I'm a gooseberry grower. The police wrote to me and said you'll help me because they can't be bothered. Lazy sods.
Oh, you mean gooseberry the fruit, not, you know, the other thing.
Yes, you're with me now, aren't you? I can tell. It's not your fault you're a bit slow. It doesn't matter. I've got some pictures of fruit if that will help.
Oh, I think we'll be all right, thank you very much. However, would you like to fill us in on your story? It's Mr. Flynn, isn't it? I must say that's a very appropriate name.
Are you poking fun at my name? It's Dutch and got nothing to do with the open-top pastry case with the fruit filling.
My humble apologies, Mr. Flynn. Please continue. I won't mention your name again then.
You have to, won't you? You've got the right to report and charge someone.
Shall I take over, Inspector Hancock? This is about gooseberries, and I'm quite partial to a nice gooseberry. Mr. Flynn, let's get this straight. You're a fruit grower, aren't you?
Now we're getting somewhere. It's nice to speak to someone a bit more intelligent. Someone's been interfering with my gooseberries by squeezing them. and bursting them is quite a painful experience.
I bet it is. But how do you know someone's been squeezing your gooseberries, Mr. Flan?
Because I'm a champion gooseberry grower, that's why, and a world authority. I've written books about them. I know these sorts of things. I can tell when a gooseberry has been intentionally squeezed rather than naturally burst, revealing the full glory of its fruity interior.
Okay, I'll take your word for that. So you're upset, and you think it's an hate crime, do you?
Upset, I'm raging inside. I won the Gooseberry Growing Championship in the village of Goosegog for the last 15 years, but this year all my fruits were ruined.
Here's a suggestion, Mr. Flan. Can't you go down Farmer Clarkson's Pick Your Own and get a punnet? You'll be surprised what grows under his gooseberry bushes.
I hope you're not suggesting I betray my fellow villagers who stood by me all these years. Clarkson's pathetic berries are no match for mine, which are as big as apples. These are the size of rabbit droppings, which is what they taste like.
I'll take over now, Hancock. What do you want us to do about it, Mr. Flan?
The winner of this year's Goosegog Gooseberry Growing Contest is a Mr. Francis Plum. He's the culprit. I want him exposed and ridiculed, like he's ridiculed me. I want an injunction against him.
Mr. Flan, can't you just forgive and forget? It's only a minor crime after all. What's a few gooseberries amongst friends?
Is it? Do you know what it's like having your gooseberry squeezed?
Ask me anything you like. I'm at your service. No, sounds like the vicar, doesn't it? Now, what can I do for you two gentlemen? Anything within reason, that is. Well, you know, wait.
You've been read your rights. You know why you're here, don't you? There's been a complaint about your behaviour, so don't try and play the old innocent with me.
Oh, but I am innocent. I'm entirely innocent. If that's about putting the bins out, I'll do it properly this week.
Yes, well,
Wait, that's it, isn't it? No, it isn't, Mr. Plum. It's more serious than that. We have an allegation from a Mr. Flan that you sabotaged his gooseberries, causing him to lose the Goosegog Gooseberry Growing Championship for the first time in 15 years, which constitutes a hate crime. Never heard such a load of old rubbish. I don't know a Mr. Flan, and I don't eat gooseberries. Don't touch them, they give you wind. Down there, well, I say, oh no, missus. But I believe you won the Goosegog Championship this year, didn't you, Mr. Plum? What if I did? Yes, it's my job, you see. Flan doesn't know, but I'm the gooseberry man. I dress up in this... Yes, wait, no, missus, in this silly costume. No one must know because I look a fool. I do it every year, and I heard someone wasn't entering. I had to do something, but I let everyone judge my gooseberries instead.
So, you do actually know a Mr. Flan?
Well, I wouldn't say I know him. I've sort of heard of him. I don't know where he lives or anything. You know, word of mouth. What the heart doesn't know, it can't see, as the saying goes. Come on, Mr. Plum. Mr. Flan has lived next door to you for the last 20 years. Does he? Well, I never. Small world, isn't it? If you excuse me, I must be going. I've got some gooseberry jam to bottle. You're full of contradictions, Mr. Plum. Shall I call you Francis? Well, am I? Do you find me interesting? I'm a very complex person. In fact, I've got a complex. Yes, please call me Francis. It's a nice name, isn't it? Takes the sting out being called Plum, I always say.
Francis, did you know Mr. Godfrey Flan, your next-door neighbour, was a champion gooseberry grower?
Of course I didn't. I've seen shadowy figure in the garden weeding and this and that. I didn't know what he was growing. It looked like plums to me, like my name by coincidence, or green gages, you know, this sort of thing. Bloody great things they were. Yes, well, those green gages were actually gooseberries, Mr. Plum. That's abnormal, if you ask me. They've been false. They shouldn't be that large, should they? The man, well, I ask you, the man must be using magic or something. Ooh.
So, let's get this straight. Out of jealousy over the size of his gooseberries, you went next door and destroyed his bushes.
Why would I do that? I'm the gooseberry man, for God's sake. No, oh yes, I went next door and asked if I could see his plums, because I'd just bought some ice cream, of course.
So what did Mr. Flan have to say for himself, Mr. Plum? He told me to toss off. I ask you, yes. Please, well, no, I mean, that's not very neighbourly. Be nice to Francis. I always say, you try and introduce yourself to your neighbours, and look what happens. It's outrageous. I'm sorry, Mr. Plum, I think we're going to have to get you two together and thrash this lot out once and for all. There'll be no allotment wars on our patch, Mr. Francis Plum. I'm not sure I want to be thrashed, if that's all right with you.
I don't want to talk to this man. We're not on speaking terms, you see. My lips are sealed. He's a fruit murderer.
Please try for us, Mr. Flan. It's the only way we can get to the bottom of this. Mr. Plum says he never touched your gooseberries. He thought they were plums. Like him.
He's just an ignoramus. He doesn't know his plums from his gooseberries, does he? You won't get much sense out of him on the subject of fruit, will you? You could squeeze him till his pipsqueak, and you would be none the wiser.
Well, ignoramus, how dare you? I am very erudite. Erudite, thank you very much. I have a degree in eruditeness.
Degree in bricklaying, more like.
I'll have you know I could lay a decent brick, but no, a degree in fruit as it happens. Yes, fruit. You didn't know that, did you, Flan? You picked on the wrong man.
No, you haven't. The correct name for a degree in fruit would be a degree in pomology.
Yes, well, no, not the Australian one. Silly, this is the English version. So, Mr. Plum, if you've got a degree in fruit, why didn't you recognise that Mr. Pick was growing gooseberries and not plums? Ooh, well, you know, what can I say? It was dark, and Mr. Pick's floodlights were in my eyes, and they blinded me. I wasn't interested in his bloody fruit. I was trying to retrieve a golf ball, if you must know. It went over his fence. Do you have floodlights, Mr. Pick?
It's to keep an eye on trespassers in case they're after my plants. You can't be too careful, as prize fruit growing is a dangerous business. There is enormous prestige involved. It's a battleground out there. That man over there stole my fruit and was brazen enough to enter it in the Goosegog Village Gooseberry Growing Championship himself. The fake.
Oh, no, missus, that's downright lie. I must admit I cheated. The fruit I entered were tin by Del Monte, but they are bargain. 40 pence a tin, yes, 40p.
Stop telling fibs. I'd recognise my prize berries anyway. They're like children. I'd give them all names.
Oh, don't be so daft. I brought them in Sainsbury's, and what were their names? Sharon and Karen?
I'm not going to tell you. It's personal between me and my berries. But what I haven't told you is that each gooseberry was specially tagged.
Ooh, fancy that, criminal gooseberries. Were they now? Ignore him, Inspector Hancock. The man's completely mad. He's been overindulging his passion, by the sound of it. As it happens, he's telling the truth, Mr. Plum. The tagging number comes up on the police computer. His biggest gooseberries were chipped and electronically tagged. And what are you going to tell us now? That they're still on the run and somewhere in Surrey? Put an alert out and ask them to turn themselves in. Yes, matron. It turns out the tagging signal was last believed to be coming from the gooseberry judging table in the neighbouring village of Goosegog last July. Well, yes, no, it must have been old Flan there trying to win yet another medal. He's greedy, isn't he? I reckon he goes down little, as you know. No, the Germans, bigger weapons and bigger fruit.
Oh, I was unable to compete because all my gooseberries were either squeezed dry or stolen. So it wasn't me, was it?
But in my opinion, Mr. Berry, you have been caught green-handed. You owe Mr. Pick there an apology. Just give him your medal and £100 in prize money that you received. I think it's time to come clean, Inspector Hancock and Mr. Flan. Do you know about the Gooseberry Man?
The Gooseberry Man? Of course I do. He's part of the folklore of the villages of Goosegog and Goosemagog, the near mythical progenitor of our gooseberries fair, and appears every year, he does, dressed all covered in gooseberries.
Yes, well, 'tis I. I am the Gooseberry Man, and wear the mantle each year at each gooseberry festival. It was my father's mantle, and his father's before him, and his father's before that. You get my drift, don't you?
Oh, master! You are my hero. If only I'd known, I would have prostrated myself at your feet and proffered up all my gooseberries.
Well, yes, listen. You don't have to go that far. Just let me off with a £50 fine and we'll call it quits.